Welcome, everyone, to Will and Amala Live. Today is December 27th, 2021, 2 days after Christmas. Very excited to be here with you guys. So today it is just me with my beard in all of its glory. Amala is on vacation. Taylor is on vacation. Scott is on vacation. It is just me. I basically feel like the only one here at PragerU, except Chris. He's a good guy. He is here helping with the show today. So today we are talking about the winter of death that is now apparently coming to America, to the rest of the world, because of the Omicron variant. We are going to be discussing that. I'm also going to be taking your guys' questions. So if you have questions for me after my kind of opening on this story, please, you can drop them below. We're going to be taking the questions that you're dropping right now and throughout this segment, and then I'm going to be answering them at the end of me being done talking about this. So without further ado, why don't we take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? Back to April 1st of this year, when we had studies come out from Pfizer, studies come out from Moderna, where they came out and said, hey, we did trials in South Africa. And because of these trials in South Africa, we have found that people with 2 doses of the vaccine have 100% efficacy of not getting sick. Okay? This is what they claimed. You can go back and look at the record. The receipts are there. The receipts are on Twitter. The receipts are on their own website. The receipts are on the studies. They did South African trials with about 1,000 people. Now, whistleblowers have now come out about these trials and said, hey, actually, the researchers modified the results to sell more products, and people now are coming and saying, oh, we never said that. Pfizer, Moderna, Bill Gates, all these people, they're coming out and saying, we never actually said that the viruses or that the vaccine will stop infection by 100%. But if you go back and you look at the records, that's what's happening. There are copious amounts of videos of people like Dr. Fauci, of people like Bill Gates, of people like Collins from the NIH, all sorts of bureaucrats and people in positions of power when these were first being rolled out that said, you have to take this, and it's basically saying, you're not going to get sick. Okay? That is what it was said. And now what is happening in America with Omicron? Okay? Cases are now at just about the same height that they were last winter. Even with about 73% of the population with at least one of the jabs, 73% of the population with at least one of the jabs, still about the same rate of COVID cases that we are seeing now as we saw last winter, but hospitalizations are down by half. Okay? Now, what does this say? People are going to come and say, well, this is at least what they're saying, these people on the left and these big corporatists. They're coming and saying, well, that is because of so many people being inoculated with Pfizer, Moderna, or J&J. That is why this is happening. But what is actually happening is Omicron, okay? Omicron is essentially the cold. When you look back at the Spanish flu and you look what happened then, the Spanish flu really started to end because they had weaker variants. Weaker variants are a way of telling you that these things are going to end. That's the exact same thing that happened with the Spanish flu in 1918 that is now happening with COVID in 2021. But these people don't want to let this go. They're going to say this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. I'm hearing it every single place I go, on every single news site from all of these people. You're also hearing all these people on CNN and MSNBC. There was a great thread on Twitter today where they were showing news clips of this, that people are talking about a viral storm. They're talking about a viral storm, and mostly because of the unvaccinated. We already saw what our administration said, where they said a winter of severe illness and death and overcrowding of hospitals. Overcrowding of hospitals because of this, okay? That is what they're saying, but let's look at South Africa. In South Africa, they are having 1/12 of the deaths from COVID that they had at their peak, okay? And South Africa only has 1/4 of their population actually vaccinated. Let me repeat that. 1/4 of their population actually vaccinated and having 1/12 of the deaths that they had at their peak. That goes to show you that Omicron is a cold. In Ontario, Canada, what they are seeing with their cases right now is that they are having a sharp uptick in cases of the people who are actually fully vaccinated in Ontario, Canada. That data is on their own website, their own health website, basically their CDC. Go out and check the data. It's the same thing that's happening in Denmark. The same thing is happening in Denmark. The same thing is happening in places all around the world, in the UK as well. And so now that we've established what Omicron is, it is essentially a cold, okay? There have been essentially 0 deaths from Omicron around the world. There was one in America, but the guy had Omicron. It's unclear whether or not this guy actually died of Omicron. There have been, I believe just today was reported, there was one in Australia, one in Germany, and in many of these places they want to shut down the entire world because of one death from Omicron. It's quite strange. But what are governments now doing because of this, because of Omicron? Well, we're seeing in Canada, they are not letting people into grocery stores unless you have a Vax Pass. That was in New Brunswick where that was reported. In New York City, they now have their new vax requirements, and we'll get into New York City in a second. In Washington, D.C., in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco, vax requirements. In Germany, the unvaccinated are now locked down, and you have to have mandatory vaccinations. Austria, mandatory vaccinations by February 1st. The Netherlands just locked down again. France just announced new vax passports actually today. This was breaking news today that they are announcing this. All over the world, you are seeing governments insist on insane control because of something that is essentially the cold. It is essentially the cold, okay? Hospitalizations are down. Deaths are down. But you have people going to hospitals to get tested when they are asymptomatic for this. In New York City, there are videos, I'm not sure if you guys saw this weekend, over the Christmas holiday, where you have people standing in line for hours out in the freezing cold, waiting to go and get a test, a COVID test in New York City. Why would you do that? Why would you go wait in line if you have no symptoms? And then also if you have no symptoms and you're waiting in line with people who might actually have COVID. So you would then contract the virus because you decided to wait in line. What a ridiculous way to live your life. I mean, in some of these places, I was in Denver this weekend, and people in my family and friends, they were looking for tests. You couldn't go anywhere. A local Walgreens had 300 tests in the morning, and by noon, they had sold out of all 300 of their at-home tests. Whoever makes these tests, they're making a killing. Okay, they are making a killing off of these. Okay, and now we have our administration who has come and said, okay, we want to give $500 billion or half a billion, 500 million tests to the people in the United States. They are at-home tests. You can send them around the country. If someone needs a test, they can figure it out with the government and get a test sent to them. And they came on and said, this is free. This is free. You don't need to worry about this. We're setting up hospitals and parking lots. Hospitals and parking lots, that's all free. All these jabs, this is all free. Oh, really? This is all free? None of this is free. This is costing our country billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. In the UK, what they did with these at-home tests, because they've already done this, it was estimated to cost about $50 billion. $50 billion to send at-home tests, to buy the amount of at-home tests to quantify for the UK. What do we have in America? We have a population 5 times that of the UK, with also a bigger space of land, so the travel and shipping is going to be more expensive. You are looking at about $250 billion just to provide the test to people. And that's a conservative estimate, okay? That is a conservative estimate. That is not nearly probably what it's actually going to be. But that is the bare minimum, $250 billion to get these 500 million tests which are going to be sent out to people so they can test whether or not they have the cold. And if they're asymptomatic, they're going to be requesting these tests anyway because certain delegations and people all across the country are requiring negative tests to go and do basic things, even though the Omicron variant is essentially the cold. Do you understand how backwards this is? And then in so many places, they are still making you mask up. They are making you mask up. They are locking places down, like in the Netherlands, like I said, masking up. The masking and the social distancing is soft tyranny. What do I mean by that? Soft tyranny means they are trying to control you and get you as close to essentially trying to see how much they can actually take away from you. Okay? The masking, they say, hey, you have to wear a mask every single place that you go. You have to wear it when you're indoors, which they have in Los Angeles here. They have it in San Francisco. They have it in New York City now, Washington, D.C., all these different places where they have masks indoors. Okay? And they tell you this as a means to get you used to being controlled. All right? They can't just come out with huge sweeping things that are going to totally transform your life and take away your freedoms. No, they can't do that. They do it softly at first. They tell you, oh, you need to be 6 feet away from each other. You need to wear a mask everywhere. You need to not have your family over for Christmas. You need to ruin your Christmas and your holiday celebrations because of the cold. Right? That's what they tell you. And then people do it. So all of this is a test. This is a test by these people to see if they can convince you into actually just doing whatever they say. And now that they have found out that people will bend over backwards to do whatever the CDC says, or Dr. Fauci, even when these people are caught in lies, or the government, whoever it is, that means that they can get away with a lot more. They can get away with a lot more. And even though the U.S., thank God for federalism, where we have different states that can impose their own way, where we have, states like Texas and Florida and Idaho, Nevada, Arizona that are standing strong, doing the right thing. But countries around the world do not have that same privilege. I mean, in Europe, they do not have that same privilege. Australia has quarantine camps. Okay? The European Union wants mandatory vaccinations for all people within the European Union. And countries who disobey with that are not going to get funding from the European Union. That's what we're seeing in Hungary right now. Hungary, I think that Viktor Orban is a great guy, but who knows how much funding, or who knows how much he actually believes in the COVID protocols that he's putting forward, just based on wanting to get the money from the European Union. All of this is about control. Okay, we just saw today that Dr. Fauci came out and said that we need masks on airplanes probably forever. Okay, he said the masks on airplanes, they aren't coming out. Even though we had two CEOs, Southwest Airlines and American Airlines, came out 2 weeks ago that said, I actually don't think the masks do anything when we have HEPA filters on the planes, which distill 99.99% of bacteria and viruses. I don't know why we need these masks on the planes, but still Dr. Fauci and these other guys are coming and saying, you have to do masks forever. And now there's just this weekend, my flight getting back here to LA, I was in Denver, Colorado for Christmas with my family. My flight got delayed 3 hours trying to get back home from Los Angeles or from Denver to Burbank because of staffing issues, because of so many people calling in sick for the cold and Omicron, which now the CDC I think this just happened about an hour ago, they halved the amount of time that you have to quarantine. It was 10 days, now it's 5 days. So you can quarantine for 5 days and then get back to work because they are seeing what is happening. They're seeing what is happening. And this is not a pandemic of the vaccinated, unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of the asymptomatic, where the asymptomatic people are coming in and clogging up the hospitals. Okay, in Vermont ER rooms have clogged up hospitals from people who are asymptomatic. They're coming to the hospital and they are asymptomatic. Vermont is also the most vaccinated state, yet you have their ERs being clogged up with people who are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic people are clogging up the hospitals. So when you're talking about wasting of resources, that is your wasting of resources. And look at how much these people are making. Look at how much money they are making. Again, $250 billion for just a test is a conservative amount. Look at Pfizer. Pfizer made $24.1 billion in the last year. That is a 134% increase from last year's sales. 60% of those sales are from vaccines. That is a lot of money, okay? With studies from Imperial College studies show that with similar mRNA vaccines technologies, how much it actually costs for someone like Pfizer or one of these companies to make one is $1.20. You know how much they sell them to the United States for? $19 a dose. So they are making them for about $1.20 more or less. This is probably as well. We don't know the exact numbers, but we can estimate based on studies. $1.20, and then they sell them to the U.S. government for $19. They are making an absolute killing. They're making an absolute killing. They did this with the swine flu that happened. That was back in 2008 or so. The swine flu epidemic that everyone was so freaked out about with the swine flu. They did the same thing then. Totally hyped it up, and Big Pharma made a ton of money off of this. Candace Owens went live the other day on Instagram, and she had a great rant about all these things going on with Big Pharma and people trusting them, and the fact that there are people out there who at first, the left used to be against these big corporations. They used to be against these people taking advantage of the little guy. That's what the left represented in this country. Now what is the left? Now the left is essentially the right arm of Big Pharma. They're essentially the right arm of Big Pharma now. They don't care at all about individual rights. They care about the bottom line. They care about profit, and they care about being a part of the herd. All right, Nietzsche talks about sheep and wolves. You have most of the people are going to be sheep. Most people are going to be sheep. The people who are the wolves will have a more lonely existence, yes, but you are doing something brave and admirable, where it used to be, it used to be good for you to be someone who is a wolf, someone who is passionate and brave and articulate and does things outside the box. People heralded you for it. Now, if you are someone who goes outside the box, you are shamed. You are ostracized. You are told that you are a horrible person. The sheep want you to be more like a sheep. Okay? Does that make sense? If there are sheep around you, they don't want you to be a predator, because what do predators do? They eat sheep. They want you to be a sheep with them. Do you understand that? You have to be brave in a time like this. None of this changes unless we all stand up, because all of the data, all of the things that they are professing right now about all of this stuff, they are going to stick to their guns, and they will never, ever admit that they are wrong. Do not expect these people who are in power to admit that they are wrong, because it's not going to happen, especially with how they're pushing now. They're continuing to push things, continuing to make it worse for everyone so that they don't have to take any accountability, right? If things started to settle down and we're able to peel back the layers and actually look at this, and the people in the government actually did something and looked at it and saw what these people are doing, then maybe we could hold these people accountable. But no one's going to be held accountable because this continues to go. How does this continue to go? Because people let it happen. You have to not let it happen. You have to be the change. If you are seeing what is going on right now in your country or across the world or wherever it is, you have to stop it. If they say don't have Christmas with your family because of the cold, have Christmas with your family, okay? I'm not telling everyone to go and have COVID parties and get everyone sick. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you can't live your life in fear because of what these bureaucrats and people who are never elected in the first place are telling you. All right? People with incentives of profit, people with incentives of power, people who want to dominate your life. Okay? These people are on a power trip, and it's time that we actually take back what is happening. There is no winter of death that these people are claiming. Okay? We're going to be fine. You be healthy. You talk about therapeutics. You take medicines that have been proven to work that these people don't want you to take, which I can't say here because we're going to get banned. I'm probably already going to get us banned with this episode anyway. It's pretty disheartening to see what's happening. I'll be honest, but I know that we can get out of this. I know that we can get out of this as long as normal people, regular people actually stand up. The time for talking is over. You know, it's one thing to go on Twitter or Facebook and share a conservative post or retweet a conservative post. But until you actually go to your school board meetings or call your congressman or go to a rally or organize people in your community, or when you go to somewhere you don't wear your mask and don't comply, and even if you have gotten the jab or you are vaccinated, you don't align with people who want you to show it to get into a restaurant. You do not comply in these scenarios, in these situations, because when you do, that means that they can get away with it. Just like I said, the soft tyranny where they know that they can control you because people are weak and they let them do it. You cannot be one of those people to let them do it, because every time you do, they continue to take a little bit more and a little bit more. I'm not going to talk about, my experience this last week with COVID and everything with my family, but I can tell you that it's very difficult. I understand that you sometimes have to sacrifice things to live by the truth, but that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to do that. All right. You have to be willing to take the higher road and be the loner and do things that other people aren't doing for the truth, for the things that you know that are right. Because if you don't, it all continues to get worse. It all continues to get worse. And then we're all going to be New York City. We're going to be New York City where now they have private sector vaccine mandates for everyone, affecting nearly 200,000 employees within the state. Absolute craziness. Absolute craziness. Well, I'm going to take some questions now. I'd love to take some of your questions. Chris has been writing them down and sending them to me. So hope you enjoyed that little rant. How long did I go for? About 20 minutes? That's not so bad. I got hot chocolate too. And a fierce beard. The beard is my mask, okay? I don't need a beard. This person said, you have the personal choice to not get vaccinated, but do not come to a hospital and demand they treat you. Of course. What do you mean? I mean, people smoke cigarettes. People are obese. People make horrible life decisions. People get behind a car and drink and then drive a car and crash into people and still get to go to the hospital and be treated. But because you choose not to get vaccinated, you don't deserve to get treated? What a terrible thing to say. And there are people who actually believe that. There are people who actually think that is the truth, that you don't deserve to get treated, especially when we are seeing that in so many places, the viral load that you carry as someone who is vaccinated versus unvaccinated is exactly the same. Studies are showing that, okay? People want to continually say, well, if you get it, then you're not going to spread it at the same rate. Show me the proof. There is no proof of that actually happening. There is no proof. Okay, let's see. Dave said, isn't getting sick once in a while just normal? Yeah, of course. Everybody gets sick, but preventing sickness has to do with your own health. I mean, it has to do with taking therapeutics. It has to do with eating healthy, getting exercise, getting sunlight, sleeping well. I mean, and getting rid of stress, all these kinds of things that are keys to remaining healthy. All right, cutting out seed oils, all these kinds of things. But just, thinking that you need to safeguard yourself from the rest of the world because you're scared of getting sick is just nonsense. It's just nonsense. When will Amala get her own show? Hopefully soon. I don't know how long I can do this for. Can we talk about what you got for Christmas? Yes, I got a lot of wonderful things for Christmas. I got Whole Foods, got some Whole Foods, which was really nice. What else did I get for Christmas? Oh, I got my grandma, she got me the best gift. So my grandma is an artist, and she drew my dog, Rocky, like hand drew with pencil. It was like incredible. It was truly one of the best gifts I've ever gotten in my life. I'll bring it in tomorrow so you guys can see it. I hope you do. Teresa said, do they allow for medical exemptions? I take an MIOI medicine and my doctor says no vaccine, yet the county still wants me to get the jab. Well, I don't know exactly where you are referring to because I think you asked this question before in the show. So I can't say exactly when you were referring to. Guys, if you have questions, drop them down in the chat here on YouTube or here on Facebook. I'm answering some of the ones that you guys are asking for. Whatever happened to herd immunity? Yes, exactly. People should be excited. I mean, people should be excited that Omicron is here because what that is essentially natural herd immunity. When people get it, like basically everyone is getting Omicron right now from what I'm hearing. I mean, I'm talking to so many people and they're like, yeah, I got sick. People in my family got sick. Other people got sick. I mean, everyone's basically sick. And it's like we should be thanking God for that we can all get natural immunity, especially when it's people who aren't dying, right? It's people who aren't dying. They're just getting sick. They're just getting sick and then having natural immunity against it. So if that is the case and we have this natural immunity, then why are they still pushing all this nonsense? Because it's about control. Charlie said, who paid for all the vaccinations? You did. Taxpayer. Taxpayer paid for all the vaccinations. They come and say that it's free. It's not free. You paid for it. You paid for this, taxpayer. That is what happened. Madeline said, will you please keep your beard? Yeah, I'll keep my beard for a little bit. It's getting a little thick, gonna be honest. It's pretty annoying. Things get caught in it. I can't drink my hot chocolate without it getting caught into my beard. And that's quite troubling. But I do like the beard. It's a good look. Joshua said, how do you change when the mass is going to comply? Listen, just because the mass is going to comply does not mean that you don't change. That is the only time that you can change. If everyone was doing the same thing and everyone was doing the brave thing, then we wouldn't be in this situation, right? How do things get better ever in the world? How have things in history ever changed to a different status quo or to something different? Is because one person or a small group of people decided to go against the status quo. What type of person are you going to be? Are you going to be the person who says, I'm going to be just like everyone else? Or are you going to be the person that says, I'm going to stand up and do something different? I just got a letter from a wonderful girl who's a fan of the show, this girl Daisy, and she said, she felt so inspired by everything that we talk about on the show, Amala and I, and everything we do, that she decided to be brave and start her own chapter of a conservative group at her school. That's an amazing thing. What we are trying to do with this show is educate and inspire people to be that person to stand out in the crowd. All right? I don't care how many people are against you. I don't care how tough it is. We have to be these people. We have to be. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm waiting for, or it said, do you think we're actually like 6 months behind Australia? We still have the right to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. Yes. We have much more freedom than places like Australia, places like the Netherlands, which take emergency powers, and all these other countries, UK with their vax passports and all of these different things. We have much more power in America, especially when we have federalism, where we have different states that have different amounts of control that are able to do this. So, it's hard to say if we are 6 months behind somewhere like Australia, but we're seeing in New York right now. I mean, New York with this new law that they're talking about on January 5th, that they might be able to detain people who might be a health risk. Right? They might be able to detain people because they are a health risk in New York City. This is America. This is the greatest city on earth, in New York City, and they are putting this forward. This is the same city that put forward meatless Mondays in school lunches because they thought it was going to help climate change. Okay? These people are out of their minds. They're out of their minds, and they will continue to take advantage of you. Any suggestions or recommendations to help coordinate community members to unify against this liberal control nonsense? Said Racer X. I mean, look, there's local elections. Oh, man, I just hit my funny bone on the table. Listen, there are local elections. You have school board. You have city council. You have all these different places that you can get involved as a community member. And even if you're not running for one of those offices, you can go in and talk to these people and give them a piece of your mind. One thing that people need to do, one thing that is also incredibly important, we can all be James O'Keefe. You have a cell phone. You have a camera. Every single place that you go, cell phone and a microphone with a camera right there. If you are going to a school board meeting and you're going to call out the people for something evil that they did, record it. Record it, or have your friend record it, or family member, get people together and get a ton of people there and go and tell them what they are doing wrong. Go tell the city council what they're doing wrong. Call your congressman and tell them what they're going wrong. Go protest outside the Capitol. All these different things. I mean, you have to be that person to make that change, and you have to record it and then post it online. Send it to news organizations. Send it to big influencers. People like I'm blanking on name, but people, big voices on the internet who will post that out, right? Send it to these people, because the only way that these things actually take off and people have to actually be held accountable for their actions and the things that they say is if we expose them for it. You know, so many of these people, like these teachers who are going and preaching this sexual content, LGBT content to kids, they don't think that parents are going to see it, or they don't think the parents are going to care. Once parents actually see what these left-wing weird teachers are actually talking about to the kids, they are incredibly upset. They are incredibly upset. But the only way that those things get exposed is if people film it, even if it's themselves filming their stupidity themselves. You have to film and record the evil things that people are doing, and you have to post it. We can all be James O'Keefe. We literally can all be James O'Keefe. It's free. It's free. You can post it online and share it to everyone you know. Taylor Trandle said, how bad did you lose your pickup basketball game the other day? I didn't actually get a play. There was no one at the gym. So Taylor's referring, I was at the gym and he asked me to record a video for him. And I recorded a video, but he didn't like it because there were basketballs bouncing in the background. So, but I only played with myself. So there was no one else there really for me to play with except for one like 7-year-old kid. And I would have felt bad if I lost to him, so I didn't play him. So this one, do you think all this COVID stuff will come back to bite the left in 22 and 2024? You know, it's hard to say because they have instituted so many policies and so many things that are already affecting our lives in every single way. Things that, you know, like think about with COVID and all these people who have been out of work. There are 5 million people in America who are not going to return to work. That's for different reasons. You know, maybe some people are moving away to go homestead or all different types of things. But so many of those millions of people are just saying, I don't want to go back to work and I can rely on the government. Now I can get away with my laziness. And so this COVID, all of this has changed America forever. It is never going to be the same. You know, at least in a generation, it's not going to be the same because of how people have been brought up, because you have masked children so that they miss out on social interactions by seeing other people's faces, that you have people who have not gone to work, that you have people getting a free lunch from the government, that you have people who have lost their jobs, where you have people who have become incredibly rich prospering off of this, and other people have become very poor because of this. So many things have changed in America that I don't think we're going to go back to what it was before. People think we're just like, oh, we're going to get back to normal one day, right? Once this is over and it's just going to be like before. Nope. No, America has changed forever. America is changed forever. And that's a very scary thought, but that's the truth. There's no going back. There's no going back. And so even if, you know, we see some sort of landslide in the upcoming elections, the damage has been done in a lot of ways, especially if the people who get elected are weak. You know, like in 2010, I mean, in 2010 we had a landslide, but you know, what did they get done? What did they get done? You know, so yeah, it doesn't really matter. Will there be lawlessness everywhere if the left abolish prisons and police in every state? Yeah, I mean, it's already happening in California. California is already happening. It's happening in Colorado, my home state. So yes. Let's answer one more question. Chris, let's find one more good one. We'll cap it off at a good 30-minute live today. Okay. Will is the last question. Will, do you see the actions taken over the last 2 years eventually being prosecuted in court, or at least an attempt to? I mean, in the 2008 financial crisis, did anyone really was anyone really held accountable for the actions of these greedy businessmen, stockbrokers, these people? No, none of them, barely any of them were held accountable, right? They had to pay some fines and things. And I think one guy served some time, but other than that, none of these people were held accountable. Okay. I do not believe that in our current state of America, people are going to be held accountable for what they've done. I talk about it on the show all the time that in the top 3 biggest problems in America is no accountability for people's actions. People do not have to take accountability for their actions. No, people can just get away with doing whatever they want, people in positions of power at least, and no one will do anything about it. Right? They just resign. They're just like people will just. There were the guys who were doing the insider trading inside the State Department. Right? They were doing insider trading. The guy's name is escaping me. He was doing insider trading. People found out, and then he resigned and just got a huge fat check after he resigned from the government. Basically, it's like resignation pay. How does that make any sense? You know, he's not being held accountable. He just resigned his position because he got caught. None of these people are held accountable. So I don't have a lot of faith. I wish that these people would be, so that no one ever attempts to do these kinds of things again. But it's hard to believe that people actually will be held accountable. I don't think so. I don't know. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in to Will and Amala Live today. Today it was just Will Witt. Appreciate you guys tuned in. I hope it wasn't too scary for you. But what you need to see the scary things. You need to see the bad things that are happening so that you can know that things need to be improved, so that you know that you have to be a warrior in this time. Are you going to be a warrior for truth and someone who stands up to tyranny and all this nonsense? Or are you going to be someone who says, okay, whatever, I'm going to not look at the bad things and just comply? You have to make that choice. It is getting down to the wire. Things are getting worse. I will level with you. Things are getting worse, okay? I've lived in this country for 25 years, been able to see for 20 of those years, really, and remember, and I can tell you that the world is not the same as when I was a kid. I'm sure many of you guys who are my age, you will understand the same thing, and you will know that to be the case. It's a long fight ahead, but I'm ready for it, and I hope you all join me doing it at the same time, being brave. Guys, make sure you follow us on Spotify podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can give them 5 stars on there, write a review. Really appreciate it. Leave a comment today. Let me know about the beard and what you thought about the information presented. And if, I get in trouble here at PragerU for saying the things I said today, make a plea that I don't get fired. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. We're going to see you tomorrow. Peace.